Many guys who pull heavy sumo can pull a great number conventional. But I don't know if maybe I have a sumo bias, but I don't see much the other way around.
Yeah, that's the thing I've seen. Conventional is so low back dominant, whereas sumo's more quad. So it's just different muscle groups. So there's downsides and positives to each.
To say that it's cheating, though, I mean, I get it. I think people are just having fun. But I also think, to your point, like a lot of the people that are deadlifting extraordinary weights, sumo, are also very capable deadlifters, period, right?
Sumo is cheating. Person who is weak but wants to feel righteous. Shut the fuck up and just get strong. Guys, sumo deadlift, do we think it's a legitimate deadlift? And first off, what are your best pulls? Let's start there. We got Pete Rubish, the OG conventional king here. What's your best pulls?
Best deadlift in training, 920 pounds. And in
conventional?
Meet, yeah, conventional, of course. 871 in a meet.
Okay.
So
I don't have a great comparison because I got a 705 regular conventional deadlift and a 766 sumo deadlift, but that was really cheating because I was in a squat suit as well.
Okay. And I've pulled 700 conventional and 755 in a meet. Now, real quick, before we get to this video by Kenny KO, and there you are pulling 900 in the gym?
Damn.
920.
920 in the gym?
yes, sir.
The man's way, the real way. Now, real quick, let's play Kenny's video because Kenny has a lot to say about the sumo deadlift.
If you're not pulling conventional, it doesn't count. Sumo deadlift. I see these kids pulling 700, 800, 900 pounds. Sumo, I'm sorry, but if the bar bends but doesn't come off the ground and all that happens is your knees lock out, it doesn't count. This would be like going and doing flat bench on a Smith machine, hitting a personal best or personal record, and then saying that you're doing a raw bench press, setting some astronomical number. And then on top of doing the sumo, they're doing the increment of about ½ an inch, and that's being pretty generous, I must say. I don't want to be the judge or the one to, put this criteria out there, but I'm sorry, if you're not pulling conventional, it doesn't count.
I think sumo's legit. It's just, we're all trying to get stronger. We're all, it's not that serious, guys. Like, I used to be very opposed to sumo as well. I've been outspoken because the guy in the video, I know him, Tony Souza. And we kind of even got into it like a year ago because I was like, this is ridiculous. This is a 1-inch deadlift. Like, and he's got a lot of flack from people, and he kind of, he wasn't too happy about that. And then we started talking, and he kind of mended things, and now we're cool. And I'm like, he's just a normal guy just trying to lift heavy. So is it so wrong that just in a gym setting where it's not that serious that someone's pulling sumo? Because I think in a meet, it's completely different. Like in a meet, you're not going to be able to do that anyway. You're not going to be able to pull a limited range of motion. He did a meet. I think he pulled 600 at his meet, which it's a far different story with calibrated plates, and you can't use straps. And a lot of times, a stiff bar even makes it tougher. So in a meet context, I think the way to neutralize it would be everyone pull on a stiff bar, and then let's go off that. And if you look at that, you'll see that IPF and USAPL numbers are pretty similar from conventional to sumo.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The stiff bar, because his hands are in close and his legs are out so wide, it's given this barbell the opportunity to bend a lot more because this is a deadlift bar and it has some whip to it. Plus, he doesn't have calibrated plates, so the weights go way, way out to the side, thus making the bar bend more. And that's exactly what we're looking at here. It's not necessarily this guy just limiting his range of motion with a wide stance, but also because of the bending of the bar. That's what's going on.
I love sumo. I pulled more sumo than conventional, but this is kind of interesting, and I think there is kind of a bit of a legit point at this point when it comes to sumo, because just like people years ago were making crazy, we're getting crazy about the bench arch, right? And with some people with a bench arch, they're able to get a decent range of motion, but there's some people who are really able to push the boundaries of the arch, where it's a lockout, and then they put it right back. And that seems to be what's been going on with the sumo. Like I don't even know. And technically it's following the rules, and you will get 3 white lights in a meet, but I don't know if that's an actual
You want to know
deadlift.
Something else that people used to think was bullshit?
What?
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Go
in
ahead.
the UFC. People used to think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like Tank Abbott would get tapped by somebody who's like, well, that guy would have never won if he didn't pull that bullshit. And it's like, wait, that's part of it's part of an evolution of fighting, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes some of these things are part of an evolution. I understand the discrepancy in this one because the movement is so short. But another example would be like the numbers that I hit. Like they were good. I did well. I lifted some heavy weights, but I'm in no way in any comparison, any capacity as strong as Ed Cohn was. Ed Cohn didn't compete raw. He competed in single ply gear.
Yeah.
And I competed in single ply gear as well. And I have totaled more than Ed Cohn, but I'm not stronger than Ed Cohn because I had advancements of like the bench shirt and some of the modern day equipment. So I think sometimes the sport just evolves and sometimes the rules don't go along with the evolution of what's going on.
Did the bench rules, let me ask you this, I might be mistaken, but did they make some adjustments to the bench in the past few years? I think that happened, right?
They're trying to. They were talking about like making you unrack the weight yourself and stuff like that in like the IPF, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think they shortened it to where there's some rule about your elbow has to go below your torso.
There we go.
Or something along those lines. So they've expanded the range of motion. But I think in a gym setting, it's very easy to manipulate weights to be heavier. Like you can put bumper plates on where they go out to the end of the bar and there's a lot more bar whip. It makes it much easier to break off the ground. But if we're talking within like a competition standpoint with the calibrated plates and stuff, it's going to be tougher and you're not going to be able to manipulate things as much. It makes it fair. But I even said, I'm like, the number one way to fix all this, get rid of deadlift bars. They're never going to do it. But if everyone pulled on stiff bars, there were no deadlift bars, everything would be a pretty fair comparison from conventional to sumo. So that's where I stand. If you really want to make it fair, just do away with the deadlift bars, keep a 7-foot standard stiff bar.
Yeah.
And then I think everything's completely fair.
I think also where this gets to be kind of like in the realm of bullshit is that it's like an Instagram clip, right? So people are just, they're doing a particular lift. It's a particular setup. They're getting the weights that are going to go out the furthest so the bar bends the most. They're going to use straps and they're going to like show people how strong they are with this particular movement. And even if they get a lot of negativity from it, they're still getting a lot of attention. So they're still able to kind of like win. But to go and try to do that in a powerlifting meet, I personally say, go ahead and like meet me here whatever way you want, because where you have an advantage, you'll probably also have disadvantages somewhere else. So if you have long arms that allow that bar to really bend and have some whip to it, good luck on the bench press.
Absolutely. I mean, they've done like just studies on the bodies of the high level Olympic lifters, and that some of the Olympic lifters at the highest level all seem to have joint and arm lengths that are very, very similar that lend to be able to do some of these movements in easier fashion. It's like if you had short arms, the bench might be an easier movement for you.
Yeah, and even the taller powerlifters look short almost. Like even someone like Dan Bell, who I think is like 6'2" or 3, filled out that body so much that his bench stroke doesn't have to be really far. Built up his or Ray Williams. Ray Williams, huge, massive legs, big old butt, big old calves. And when he does a squat, I'm not saying it's a shorter range of motion, but he has an advantage because he built up so much mass that he gets to kind of rely on that as opposed to some of the lighter weight people who might be more slender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting thing, and someone who had a really cool response to this, or an interesting response, was Layne Norton, and we'll get to that. But one thing that I have noticed is, for example, Jamal Browner, who pulls above 1,000 sumo, can also pull in the realm of 8-something, or I think low 9s conventional. Many guys who pull heavy sumo can pull a great number conventional, but I don't know if maybe I have a sumo bias, but I don't see much the other way around. Am I tripping, or is there something there?
I think that's a good point. And in Jamal's case, he's also like super jacked.
Yeah.
So some people think the sumo thing is cheating and that it's not really recruiting muscle. And it's like, well, Jamal Browner is yoked out of his mind, and he also is a very proficient power lifter. Really good at squats, really good at bench press.
But look how much that came off the ground.
And there's there's definitely a range of motion to it. And that looks a lot different though than his 1,100 plus. I think he's may have lifted. I mean, now you're getting into the realm of lifting almost more weight than anybody in the history of the world when you talk about an 1,102 pound deadlift, regardless of how it's done.
Yo, what?
And we got Dan
Grigsby.
Dan Grigsby, right? Yeah, he was smashing some
Griggs.
weights too. Griggs, yeah.
Yeah, I just talked to him. I mean,
That's
I think
gnarly.
Jamal's got his conventional, he just hit a PR of like 965.
What about this? Jamal's
So that's-
not that heavy. And he compared to like Hap Thor or Eddie Hall, right? Like Jamal weighs
242.
Yeah, that's wild.
But question again, do you guys see many high, like mainly conventional pullers? Do you see many that, oh, here's Jamal's 953. Do you guys see many go the other way?
No. I mean, the technique even for me on sumo feels terrible. So I'm definitely not as strong with it. So you could make that argument where a lot of the top conventional guys would try sumo and feel awful.
Yeah.
Because it's more quad dominant.
How about a powerlifting meet that makes you do both?
Oh my gosh, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
That'd be interesting.
Ed Cohn did 887 conventional.
Yeah.
And 903 sumo. So he might be the grand champion of that forever and ever.
So is sumo deadlifting cheating? Let us know in the comments down below. But having strong feet is going to allow you to be a stronger lifter and athlete. That's why I partnered with Vivo Barefoot Shoes. Now these shoes, these are the Primus Light 3s and these are the Primus Knits. They have a wide toe box so that your toes have room to move. They are flat and they are flexible so that your foot doesn't get stuck in the shoe, because feet need to be feet for them to be able to develop well. Most people put their foot in cast, really narrow shoes that have too much, and their feet aren't able to do what they need to do when they're in the gym or when they're in life. These are the Novus. These are really cool casual shoes. But with Vivo Barefoot Shoes, your feet are able to do what they need to do in the gym. That's why we've been partnering with them for so long. So if you want to get your hand on some Vivos, these casual ones, the Novuses are sick. Head to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject and you'll automatically be able to save 15% on any pair of your Vivo Barefoot shoes. Enjoy the video.
There might be something said if you're a conventional puller, though, that like if we're like play this game in your head, guys, and try to think of some of your favorite powerlifters, right? There might be a merit to getting fairly proficient at sumo, even if you're mainly a conventional puller, because it might fill in some holes as far as your pulling is concerned. I'm curious, Pete, since you're such a great puller, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I always feel like with the guys I train, the mainly dominant conventional pullers do not get as strong if I had in sumo. It doesn't seem to carry over as much, just from what I've seen anecdotally.
Okay.
But I have my sumo pullers who pull that in competition do quite a bit of kind of conventional pulling, and that really helps take it off. So it's almost like it helps, you know, conventional helps sumo improve, but not necessarily vice versa from what I've seen. And maybe you could say it's harder to learn the technique of sumo. You know, it's more technical. There's a lot more of a learning curve, and that's why it doesn't help as much.
So you're saying sumo people are smarter?
It could be. It's a harder learning curve. Conventional is just like everyone knows, grip and rip, pick the bar up. It's a lot more simplistic, and it's a lot more, you can just be aggressive with it.
Yeah.
Sumo pull puts also like a lot of stress on the hips. And for some guys that are used to pulling conventional their whole life and now they're trying to widen their legs out, maybe they don't squat with a really wide stance. Maybe they have more of a medium stance. Louis Simmons was a big fan of having people pull sumo in a lot of training and even work their way out really, really wide. But he didn't really care that the guys were doing that super heavy. He wanted that more as an assistance movement, and he utilized that with a lot of pullers that were even pulling conventional, and thus the reason for the box squat too. Like Louis was a big proponent of box squatting quite often to help build up the hips, to help with squats, and a box squat is done with a much wider stance than a traditional squat.
You know what's really interesting about the sumo? When I was first starting a sumo deadlift when I was in my early 20s, I remember distinctly like there was a 3-month period when I first started learning it where my hips were burning every single day. The muscles in my hips and my adductors were literally burning because they've never had that type of stress. And after a few months, it literally went away. But I was able to deadlift after that 3 times a week without feeling any type of crazy fatigue in my body. It didn't fuck with my CNS nearly as much as a lot of conventional pulling did.
Yeah, a lot less tension in the lower back, especially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing I've seen. Conventional is so low back dominant, whereas sumo's more quad. So it's just different muscle groups, and it's probably a little more taxing to do conventional from what I found, but you have to have greater hip mobility to do sumo. So there's downsides and positives to each.
To say that it's cheating, though, I mean, I get it. I think people are just having fun.
Yeah.
But I also think, to your point, like a lot of the people that are deadlifting extraordinary weights, sumo, are also very capable deadlifters, period, right?
Absolutely. And I think you want to pull up Layne's response to this? Because Layne Norton, I think he's also pulled a fairly decent amount conventional too, but he says, sumo is cheating. Person who is weak but wants to feel righteous. This is in direct correspondence to Kenny's post. If sumo is so easy, then let's see you do 600 plus sumo. fucking do it. The top deadlifters are a mix of sumo and conventional because some pull more conventional. Muscle activation is also similar between the two. And then he has a very long text caption. Holy shit, what? There's a little bit more. We'll make this fast. This whole sumo is cheating movement was started by people who suck at pulling sumo. Trust me, no one is trying to make it harder on themselves. I'll pull 700 conventional and my best sumo is 727. Both were hard as fuck. Both require tons of work and technique. Shut the fuck up and just get strong. That's a very Layne caption.
There's a old story about the guy that so Westside Barbell was originally developed in Culver City, California by a guy named Ed West, and then Louis just named it after them because they did box squats and they did a lot of the stuff that Louis ended up doing with his lifters. But there's a story that like Ed West was watching a powerlifting meet one time, and he was an extraordinary powerlifter himself. And he just went up to like Larry Pacifico, who's another legendary powerlifter, and they saw someone sumo deadlift, and they just looked at each other at the same time. And they're like, "That's not powerlifting."
Wow.
And this, you know, these are guys from like the 70s, 80s, whenever powerlifting was kind of starting.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we should have stopped it back then. That was our only hope.
Yeah, now it's out there. Well, it really wasn't much of a thing 10 years ago. Even when I look back around the time of the backyard meet of the century in 2013, there weren't a ton of sumo deadlifters compared to now. Now it's probably almost more prevalent than conventional, or it's like a 50-50 split.
You think people in the crowd just shouldn't watch it? Like just,
No.
just everyone just turn their chair around for a moment, you know, as this guy sumo deadlifts, and then when it goes back to the real deadlifts, they just turn back around the other way.
It's just the evolve, you know, how the sport's evolved.
Just everybody
Part
pull
of the
out their
game.
phones as soon as the sumo puller goes up. Go check out the Instagram, and then and we're done.
Hey, low bar squatting's mainly a powerlifting thing though, right?
That's true. That's another way of looking at it. Low bar, I could do way more than
Low
high
bar, wide stance, lean into it.
Low bar, 70 more pounds for me.
Versus high bar.
Yeah.
Hip
So
crease below knee. That's all you need.
that could be cheating too.
Well, yeah. And even a powerlifting squat, you're going to squat way more. It's a lesser range of motion than an Olympic lifting squat where they're going down as low as humanly possible.
True.
So that's the thing to think about here. But again, what was your homie's name? That pulled that in Kenny's video.
Yeah, Tony Souza.
Tony Souza. I'm not dissing the dude either, but like I can see why people are like, that's not it. I can see it.
He took it to another level.
But that's the thing. Like you're supposed to evolve. Like if this is the rule,
Right.
how can I get the most while still being within the rules? And Tony's doing that to an extreme level.
Yeah, people are going to break them. They're going to try things that are different. I mean, you've seen it in every sport. The Raiders notoriously used to hold a lot on defense, and then they made pass interference. They didn't have pass interference for a while. So all those guys that made it to the Hall of Fame, maybe they wouldn't even been in the Hall of Fame. Jack Tatum and all the other defensive players are famous on the Raiders that like beat the shit out of the receivers on the other team. They just wouldn't even be able to do that. I'm sure soccer, baseball, the list goes on and on of the evolution of sports and the different things that happen kind of along the way.
Yeah, and I mean, he did like the Tony did do a meet and he did 600. So he has done a meet and it looked very different. It's somewhere on there. It's like 2-inch range of motion deadlifter that did a meet or something. Like I think that's what the title was. Lifting Vol put it up. You might be able to find it, but that looks completely different than like his training deadlifts. So there's different context to everything. I don't know if you find it on there, but there is a video and it's quite a difference. So
Yeah, it's not Instagram worthy, but it is meat worthy.
yeah, it just depends on the circumstances.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to kind of, manipulate things in training.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Is sumo actually cheating? Is Kenny actually right? And is Layne wrong? What the fuck's going on here with the deadlift? Because apparently Cbum doesn't think that. And
Yeah.
Cbum is quite literally everyone's lifting god, right?
Yeah,
So
everybody
he says
loves him.
sumo's cheating. So I guess what? Who'd we listen to?
Yeah, I think he was kidding though, right?
He said it multiple
Stir in the
times.
pot.
I don't know. You know what? So what if Cbum was to meet Dan Green and see the ham hocks that Dan Green was able to build? Maybe he'd be like, maybe I should give him a try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
Dude, sumo deadlifting helped build my body a bunch.
Yeah.
Like it's still a type of deadlift that I can do, get a bunch of fucking muscle activation and not feel crazy fatigued after. I can move a lot of volume sumo. Like it might be beneficial for people to learn if they want to deadlift with frequency, right? So
It's great to learn. It's great to have options. And when I was deadlifting, often I would do both. I would do both sumo and conventional, every warm up, every workout. felt good, and I would pick whatever one felt better for the day, and I'd ride that out.
So your verdicts, is it cheating or not?
Yeah, it's totally cheating.
Yeah?
I'll go with no,
No?
reluctantly, but no, I've adapted my. I'll say it's not cheating.
And we have a YouTube and Spotify poll, so let us know if you think sumo is cheating or not. I'm very curious. Pete, where can people find you?
YouTube, Pete Rubish.
I think powerlifting is all about cheating. Get some steroids, do some sumo pulls, and you'll be able to lift 1,000,000 pounds. Strength is never weakness, weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.